1966, the Chicago Bears drafted the son of a Pennsylvania coal miner in the 4th round. Doug Buffone would go on to play 15 seasons for the Bears and later be named one of the 100 greatest Bears of all time. His allegiance to the Bears never waned, even when he took to the microphone and witnessed some horrendous Bears teams.
The fact is, there's not the fear put into them, because this game is a lot about fear. You either do the job, or you go home and go sell hamburgers at McDonald's.
Doug told it like it is, and that's part of the reason his nephew John has dedicated this show to Doug. And now John Buffone is spreading Buffone-branded beratements just like his uncle.
Being a Chicago Bears fan is like being in a toxic relationship that you can't get out of. I think I'm finally done, and then they come back and they say, well, things are going to be different this time. I've changed. We've got receivers now. We've got the quarterback now. And even though I've heard this song and dance before, I go back every time.
And he's got pep talks too.
I love this team. And I know everyone watching and listening loves this team. So while we may be pessimistic and cynical, every one of us still has hope that the stars will align at some point. And if that ever does happen, you'll be glad you stuck around.
John is telling it like it is here on Buffone 55. And joining John are Alyssa Barbieri, managing editor of USA Today's NFL Wires, including Bears Wire, and also Danny Shim, lead game and draft analyst for the Barroom Network. Buckle up and bear down. This is Buffone 55, the John Buffone Show.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Buffone 55, a fast-paced show that breaks down the Chicago Bears. My name is John Buffone, and before I go any further, Alyssa Barbieri is not with us tonight. As many of our listeners know, she lives in Florida and is working with her family to safeguard themselves from Hurricane Milton. Alyssa, we miss you a lot, and we wish you and all the people affected by these storms the very best. And we want all of our followers to know that if you're interested in doing some volunteer work in these affected areas, the Red Cross is seeking volunteers for 2-week deployment. Just go to redcross.org/volunteer, or you can help with a donation to the Red Cross. Call 1-800-RED-CROSS. All right, let's jump into some football. 2 wins in a row, baby. We have so much to be happy about with this rebuilt Chicago Bears team. A dominating performance on both sides of the ball against the Carolina Panthers. But as longtime followers of this show know, we try to have a healthy sense of skepticism about what we see on the field just to make sure we aren't holding victory parades before we've even played a division opponent. It will be difficult, though, to find anything bad or ugly because there was so much that was good about Sunday's win over the Panthers. And with me to discuss and analyze are Danny Shim, and we've dusted off an oldie but a goodie. Aldo Gandia is here. Aldo, you're like that Bee Gees 45 that you find in the attic. You take it out of the dust-covered sleeve, you throw it on the record player, and it sounds just as good as the day you bought it. Welcome back to this side.
Staying alive. Staying alive.
There it is. Staying alive. Danny, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm sorry, guys. Excuse me, a little bit of a cough here. My voice is a little raspier, so hopefully you guys do put up with it. But first and foremost, John, I want to echo your sentiments in terms of Alyssa. I hope her and her family are safe, and anyone who's in the path of this monstrous hurricane in Florida, please be safe and take shelter and do what you need to do. So that's first and foremost. I want to kind of put that out there right away.
I echo those myself.
Excellent. Well, Aldo and Danny, on a scale of A to F, how would you grade the quality of that Panthers team that the Bears beat? I ask this because that seems to be the biggest complaint by Bears fans and NFL fans, that the Panthers stink so bad that the 26-point victory was not a big deal. Danny, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, the Panther themselves, they're enough. I mean, they might be the worst team in football. I mean, that second-round pick is going to be maybe the first pick in the second round. We'll see what happens. But in terms of the win, it's hard to win, every Sunday at the NFL. So a win, in my opinion. And after that first, drive where the Panthers jumped up to that 7-0 lead, I'm like, oh my God, here we go. Eberflus doesn't have this team ready. it was lights out. I mean, they came back defensively, offensively, they put on a show, and the Bears did what they were supposed to do, right? They put their foot on the throat of a bad team, and they didn't let them get up. And that's what you take out of this victory, is that they took out a bad team, but they didn't keep it close. It wasn't a last second, field goal from Santos to win it. They blew it out, and they looked good doing it. So, I mean, that's to me, they're a better team. And they showed it, and it's a win. You move on. Now you're going to Jacksonville. But, yeah, the Carolina sucks. But you know what? It's better kicking their ass like that, 36-10, than losing to them. So.
Yeah, I again echo Danny's thoughts on that. It's important to beat inferior opponents, and you have to beat them by a large score. You don't want to squeak out a win against the Carolina Panthers. You want to pummel them. I saw a lot of people on social media says, "Oh, well, Caleb, stuffed those statistics because he was playing against a bad team and they had a big lead. Why was he doing that?" Because that's what you're supposed to do. You don't want to leave any chance at all at a miraculous fourth quarter comeback, and instead we'd be here crying as opposed to complaining about your dumb comments. So let's keep the pedal to the metal, as they say, beat these poor opponents that we had Sunday and we'll have Sunday, and then continue to improve so that by the time we get to those tough opponents, week 10, week 11, we pummel them too, hopefully.
Well, 100%, because this is what you're supposed to do. And this is the NFL, where anything can happen, where if you let an opponent hang around, they're still professional athletes. You can end up losing a game that you're supposed to win. And we've seen the Bears do that plenty of occasions. So you have a team where you want them and you finish them. That was a very good sign, where the Bears didn't let a team hang around that shouldn't be hanging around. They beat this team down, and they keep beating them until the final whistle blew. But Danny, before we send you backstage, during our first segment, I got to ask you to decipher a moment that happened during the game, and I think a lot of people know where I'm going. In the second quarter of the game, Fox Sports had their mics hot, and they picked up an interaction between center Coleman Shelton and quarterback Caleb Williams. For those watching and or listening with their kids, we bleeped out that 4-letter word that Shelton used. Aldo, go ahead and play that moment.
Make the offense one-dimensional.
32, 32, 30. We got fire, man. I know. Here we go. 32.
Apparently they have a fire, Kenny.
Sounds like it.
I love it.
Hey, Danny, what does bleep fire mean for those who aren't acquainted with some of the football terminology?
Well, that's just a center doing his job. He's calling out the protection. He notices that the Panthers have a blitz coming. Basically, they're bringing more guys, and they have protect and a set to protect. So it's usually that fire means that there's a blitz coming. He's identified a blitz. Sometimes it also means that he's identified a extra defender coming in between a defensive lineman stunt or something like that. But typically it means they're bringing the blitz. He's bringing an extra defender. Caleb's got to make sure he's got that guy, because they don't have an extra body on the line to protect that free rusher. So that's Caleb's guy. He's got to identify him, see him, and get rid of the football before the guy gets to him.
All right, Danny, thank you. Looks like Caleb is operating well under some fiery conditions. We will look forward to you breaking down some more tape during our Buffone's Basement segment. Aldo, if you still remember how this works, can you please give our audience a rundown? And if you could, please keep it clean.
Yeah, let me get rid of Danny and put your better looking face. I will keep it clean, but I do have to just let it out once.
I can't stand you. Okay.
You know what? Coming up with the idea is a lot easier than executing it, isn't it? But for those who don't know, the show goes this way, and I have to actually script it out, John, because I have forgotten how it works. Seriously.
Whatever.
Our first segment is the signature part of the show. That's when I ask John 5 questions, and he has 55 seconds to answer them, and he is really good at nailing it right at when it goes 0-0. Now, John's uncle, Doug, he played 15 seasons for the Chicago Bears, and he wore number 55, and that's why we call the segment B55. And I used to watch Doug play when I first started watching Chicago Bears football, so he was a hero to me. But the relationship Doug and John had, very, very special. Doug went on to become a very successful businessman and broadcaster broadcaster now, John, channels Doug Buffone and that energy and passion that he had in this upcoming segment. Then we'll take a break. We'll show a few commercials of some of the stuff we're doing here at the bar room that's Bears related. And then after that break, we've got a segment called Buffone's Basement, which I've been trying to do a graphic for weeks, but I still haven't finished it. So I'm sorry about that, guys. And then Danny will, John and I will have an informal discussion about the Chicago Bears. Danny's got some tape to break down as well. And hopefully, John, I did a good job of explaining what is going on.
Well, we've only been doing it for 8 years, so hopefully we have a pretty good grasp of it by now.
Oh, my gosh. I hope so, too. Are you ready for question number 1?
Let's get into it.
All right. Everyone on the show picked the Bears to beat the Panthers. Even I did backstage. But we also weren't quite sure if they were going to cover that 4-point spread. Well, we were all pleasantly surprised with the Bears dominating the Carolina Panthers from the first quarter on and cruising to that 36-10 win. So I'll start with this question. How surprised were you that the Bears put in this dominating performance at home against the Panthers? And I want you to be completely honest, all right? You got 55 seconds. Go.
So I think I'm programmed as a Bears fan to make myself delusional about about their chances in games they shouldn't win, and then be ultra cautious and even worried about games they should win. So going into the game, I thought they'd win, but in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, geez, what are they going to do to make this a closer game than it should be? What's going to happen? Then I'm going to be a nervous wreck in the fourth quarter. And then the Panthers drive down the field and they score and they take a 7-0 lead. And I'm thinking, here we go. The football gods didn't hear all those prayers last week, or they did, and they just decided to laugh in his face. But then they put together a good drive. They scored 30 unanswered points, and by the third quarter, I'm not stress eating anymore. Now, granted, I was victory eating, but that's a much more enjoyable process. We haven't had that feeling in the past few years, and it wasn't just like a sense of relief, like, woo, escaped that one with the win. It was like oh, hell yeah, they hit the gas and did not look back. Let's go. Great kind of victory.
I totally agree with you. I had the similar experience when the Panthers scored that first touchdown. I was nervous. I'm thinking to myself, is this going to be the Andy Dalton revenge game? You know, he's played for like 5 or 6 teams and he's beaten all of them except the Bears and the Cowboys. And so I because of past experiences, I thought Andy Dalton's going to beat the Chicago Bears, and I'm going to just lose my mind this week. But thankfully, this team looked really well-oiled, and they did what they had to do, which is dominate the Panthers. Awesome.
Yeah, it would have been such a Bears thing to lose to Andy Dalton. And listen, we all picked them to win. I expected them to win, but I don't know if I truly in the back of my mind expected them to win by 26 points. And so by doing that is a huge lift, and that shows that this team can actually finish off a team that they should beat. They're beating teams they should beat, which is something we haven't been able to say for a while.
Yeah, I thought they were going to cover the spread, but annihilate the spread, I didn't have that in my betting window, that's for sure. All right, let's move on to question number 2 and talk about the talk of the town, Caleb Williams and the Bears offense. The rookie went 20 of 29 for 304 yards and 2 touchdowns. And as a team, the Bears also rushed for 128 yards. John, I know we are hypercritical of the offense, but are we seeing the evolution of Caleb Williams and this new age offense happen before our very eyes? You, my friend, have 55 seconds. Go.
Look, I don't know why I'm so guarded about this. I think it's because I'm afraid of being hurt again. But yes, I believe we are seeing that. And gosh darn it, we deserve it. If you look at Caleb's first 2 games versus his last 2 games, there is a real noticeable difference. Now, he has finally been getting a little more help. It looks like Shane Waldron has finally figured out how to use DeAndre Swift, who had another good day running and catching the football. And that whole thing about DJ Moore and Caleb not having chemistry was put to rest after he caught 5 balls for 105 yards and 2 touchdowns. But also, the offensive line played better. Caleb had some clean pockets to operate in, and I know it's Carolina, but at least we saw that they were capable of playing well against an NFL defense. That's something to build on. Also, Caleb showcased his escapability a few times. I'm watching him get swallowed up, and I'm thinking he's dead to rights, and then he pops out of a lineman's grasp and boom, delivers a strike. All of this to say, I'm starting to let myself get kind of vulnerable again, and I think most Bears fans are tiptoeing in the same direction about being
I hear you, man. I was watching Fox Sports today, and Nick Wright has this Mahomes Mountain bit that he does every week where he puts all of the quarterbacks in that mountain, kind of like a pyramid, and he has moved up Caleb Williams to that third row. And I thought it was fair that he did that. The most impressive thing, well, one of the most impressive things about Caleb Williams that I've seen is his master of the offense at the line of scrimmage. And in fact, in that fire play, he was changing the play, and he says to his center, I know the blitz is coming, and he calls the play, and they pick up, a modest gain, but no sack, no getting behind the sticks and so forth. And so that to me is the amazing thing. I love Justin Fields. I want him to succeed, but he never really captured that mastery of an offense, and it seemed like he struggled at times. Hey, my 55 seconds.
You got caught up, Aldo. Yeah, welcome to my world, buddy.
I love it.
All that to say, I think that, listen, and I'm going to get Danny's take on this later because I want to know what his opinion is on Shane Waldron, because the guy was getting, myself included, just put through the ringer the first couple of weeks, and maybe he's figuring out what the kind of personnel he has, and maybe we're seeing that evolution. Once again, I think we need a bigger sample size because we're barely, are we even a third of the way into the season? I don't think so. So it's like we gotta see more, but at least we're seeing incremental progress rather than, oh man, they're staying stagnant and the same thing's happening over and over again. Which is what we're kind of used to. So take the progress when you get it and be happy about it, I guess.
Absolutely. I'll take that incremental progress against any team. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right, let's go to question number 3. We talked about the offense, but we have to talk about the engineer of the Bears defense, and that is, of course, head coach Matt Eberflus. The defense continues to get better and is consistently helping the offense with turnovers and field position. That is huge. So with this excellent defense, an offense that is showing improvement, and the Bears currently sitting at 3-2, is Matt Eberflus's hot seat starting to cool off? I'm going to put up the 55 seconds since for some reason it is stuck at 55, but there it is. Take it away, brother.
Oh, boy. What a time to ask this question, by the way. Okay, so let's go over the current state of the Bears. They have a winning record. The side of the ball that Eberflus specializes in is one of the best in the league, and the guy he brought in to run the offense with his rookie quarterback has shown improvement over the last few weeks. We still have questions about his use of timeouts and challenges, and while there has been recent improvements with the offense, we still don't have an ironclad opinion about Eberflus's ability to put together a staff. What is interesting is his fate may not even be in his control. Unless you are an established defensive head coach with proven success like Mike Tomlin, Bill Belichick, Pete Carroll, you're kind of tied to your offensive production, and even some of those guys were eventually shown the door. So if you're a defensive head coach without a proven track record like Eberflus, his fate may fall into the hands of Shane Waldron. I mean, look what happened to Robert Salah today. So I don't think his seat is scalding hot or even very hot at this point, but he's at least in a car with heated seats for now.
Well, but I gotta say, the idea of the Bears ever firing a coach in middle of the season.
Oh, I don't think that'll happen. No,
I don't think it will either. And so I think his job is safe almost no matter what happens. Yeah. Unless there's a catastrophe of multiple, 50-point losses kind of thing. Yeah. And I know I'm definitely exaggerating, but one of the things that I've really grown to respect about Matt Eberflus, and it was via The Athletic, he sat down with Kevin Fishbane and he started looking through tape and explaining certain things about how to play the game of football, what defensive players have to look for, how to position their bodies. This guy really is a brilliant coach. And maybe he's better as a defensive coordinator than a head coach, but right now he's the head coach. And if this team continues to show incremental progress, this guy is going to be the head coach of the Chicago Bears for a long time. Is there a whistle coming?
Yeah. Well, I think you're right. And I don't think by any stretch of the imagination, no matter what happens, they're going to fire a head coach midseason. And I don't even think that's in the realm of discussion right now because they have a winning record. So I don't want to get too far down there. I think that whenever you hear the national media still talk about which coaching positions are going to be open at the end of the year, they still mention Chicago for some reason. They're still saying that there's a possibility of that there could be a coaching opening in Chicago. So, I mean, not that I'm going to take what the national pundits say is, gospel, but that's still a talking point out there. So I don't think it's a very hot seat. I just think it has the potential to be warm if something does happen down the line.
Very good. All right, let's move on to question number 4. The Bears head across the pond this weekend to play the Jaguars, as everyone knows, and the game is at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London. Don, you have always been outspoken about watching the Bears in prime time. But does this apply to this game in England, where the game in Chicago, I think it's at 8:30, your area, 9:30? So what are your thoughts in general about the Bears playing in London?
So I don't hate it as much. For one thing, it'll start at like 6:30 a.m. on the West Coast. I'm not sure if someone that goes out on a Saturday night in LA is going to set an alarm clock for 6:30 so they can tune into Bears Jags. And then, like you said, it's at 8:30 for you guys in the Central Time Zone. Here on the East Coast, it'll be 9:30. So while there may be a bigger international audience, I don't know if it'll be the same as the traditional primetime game here in the States. As far as the game itself, the Bears have a bye next week. I'm not really concerned about it screwing up their routine moving forward. I'm stoked for all the Bears fans over in England, especially our buddy Chris Watts for the Barroom Network. It must be awesome to know that your favorite team is coming to your homeland. And everyone knows I love a themed party, so I might wake up on Sunday morning, pour myself a cup of English tea, rustle up a shepherd's pie for breakfast, and crush some fish and chips at halftime. Then again, I am but a simple bloke who enjoys a chin wag with my mates.
Well done.
And yes, I did Google some English phrases to make sure I knew what I was talking about.
I think you nailed it. You fooled me. You could pass for a Londoner.
Sure.
Listen, I always enjoy when the Chicago Bears are on the spotlight. I'm unlike you, John. Although I've been tested. My patience has been tested. But the idea of the Bears going to another country and making the fans love them, I want that challenge this week for this team. I want everyone, all those Londoners who are wearing Jaguars jerseys, to just take them off during the halftime and throw them in the lake and start rooting for the Chicago Bears. I want that 85 Bears charisma to come back to Chicago, because in my decades of being a Bears fan, that's what it was like. The 85 Bears were a rock and roll stars of the world. And so I'd love to see that happen again.
Well, there's where that generational gap comes in, although I wasn't alive. I was not alive when the Bears were rock stars. I wasn't alive in 85, and I wasn't born until a few years after that. So all I've experienced is watching the Bears in primetime for the majority of my life. Not every year, but for the majority of my life, it's being, oh man, another letdown. And now I have to go to, because I'm on the East Coast, now I have to go to bed at 1 a.m. and the Bears lost, and I'm in a bad mood. So if it does turn back into that, I will enjoy primetime games. But it's I've been snake bitten so much from that.
I can certainly understand that, but I got to tell you, 85 was a special, special time, and I'd love to experience that one more time. And I'd love for all Bears who were not alive during the 80s and those Bears teams to experience that too. Absolutely. All right, let's get to our final question. Speaking of that 3-2 record, John, the Bears are on the cusp of doing something we are not accustomed to, potentially winning 3 games in a row. Of course, I'm praying for 8, but that's another story. John, as Bears fans, we are always programmed to assume the worst and not to get too excited about anything. But we are seeing some very promising signs about what this team could potentially do this season. So that's the question. Are we allowed to get excited about what this team is going to do this season? 55 seconds are on the clock. Take it away.
Oh, wow. So My mind is saying be cautious and gather more information, but my heart and soul is saying I've been hungry too long and it's time to eat. Look, if the Bears win this game, that is 3 in a row. That is a winning streak. We haven't had one of those in a while. All you can talk about is the level of competition. You can do that all you want, but just saying that proves that the Bears aren't cellar dwellers anymore. That means they are beating teams they should beat. That's what good teams do. I'm not jaded enough to think that the 2024 season is going to end with a Super Bowl, but we have been talking about the process of the rebuild for 3 years. And quite frankly, we have not enjoyed the fruits of our labor yet. Winning 3 games in a row, if it happens, is the first apple to be plucked from the tree of trades and cuts and draft picks. And you know what? I cannot wait to take a bite of that apple. So yes, we can get excited for a winning streak. We can get excited about this Bears team, and let's hope they come back from England with a win. That's all we got. We got more Bears talk coming up after the break, but let's take another look at the coverage of the Bears here at the Barroom Network.
Here's what Justin Fields is. He's that perfect plug-in guy, man, for 4 games. They won 3, now they've lost 2. They're not, he's Schwarber to me. Schwarber's a 240 hitter. Okay. He's a 240 hitter that looks like garbage. And then all of a sudden you go, where'd the ball go? Where'd the ball go? Fields wants to win so bad. He's great at running. He's getting better at passing. He's with the right team. Okay. But one of the reasons they're that low, Dan, is because of the quarterback position. Just like one of the reasons you didn't last is because you were quarterback and didn't put up the numbers. But you got there. But you should know better. Okay. I see already a big difference in the Bear offense after 5 games than I did the last 3 years.
Bears.
Because of the way they play the nickel corner here, and the nickel corner plays 88-85% of the snaps. He's got to be like part linebacker.
The Bears.
When you're in a scouting room, there's going to be differences of opinion.
The Bears.
Well, you're looking at traits. And remember when he tested very, very well.
The Bears.
Greg, why are teams wrong on quarterback evaluation so often?
Number one, it's a hard position to evaluate.
Former Bears scouting director Greg Gabriel talks football live every week on the Barroom Network. Also available on demand.
Welcome back to Buffone 55. Danny Shimmon's back with us. Danny, I want to talk about this Bears offense. Over the last 2 games, the Bears have totaled 258 rushing yards. In their first 3 games, they totaled 218 yards. Why has the running game improved so dramatically?
Well, Shane Walsh has been watching our show here. I mean, taking our advice and listening to us. Right? That's obvious, John. I mean, that's the obvious answer. But no, so on a serious note, I mean, they're more committed to the run. It's just the second game in a row where they've had more rush attempts than they have pass attempts, right? Key had 29 pass attempts. The Bears had, as a team, 39 total rush attempts, right? 21 for DeAndre Swift and then 10 for Rashawn Johnson. And the offensive line, they struggle protecting and pass pro, right? He saw that the first 3 weeks. Now he's allowed to go ahead and be aggressive and go after the defensive linemen. Offensive linemen love it when they step forward as opposed to stepping backwards, right? So they're going forwards, and now they're imposing their will and they're moving guys off the line of scrimmage. A player we're gonna talk about later on is someone that kind of was plugged in. I thought had a solid first performance there as well. So I think the offensive line is getting better in run blocking. I think they're committing to the run, and we saw more of Caleb under center, which we've been calling for all along, right? We saw that if you want to call it the jumbo package, where you have bringing Kramer in the I formation, line up as a lead back with Roschon Johnson, more of that power in between the tackle, top of runner. And this is within 2 weeks now, Roschon Johnson has scored 3 touchdowns from that same formation. So I think that they're committing more to the run. I think Waldron, after that meeting, for whatever reason, he needed that meeting to kind of say, all right, let me go ahead and play to my players' strengths. And I think he's done that. And now I want to see some more of that. Just continue building off of that, right? Continue with the play action. Continue with more. I think, I don't know what the numbers were, but it might have been a little bit more tilted towards shotgun. But I think we saw less shotgun overall and more Caleb under center, which I love to see. But I guess, again, I keep saying it week in and week out, play action. Even if you're not gouging them with the run, it's just a threat of giving the ball to the running back, freezes that second level defender. And that gives you so many opportunities in terms of what you can do, Caleb, the quarterback, and then the play caller and certain all this. So I think commitment to the run, being successful running the ball, they're not leading the league in running, but they're successful. They're getting, good carries. I think back-to-back games, Swift had, 2 good games there. And I mentioned that, Roschon Johnson, 3 touchdowns in the last 2 games. So I think that is the combination of all of that, I think has really kind of elevated this offense here.
I'll add to that. I want to underline the word commitment that Danny just used there over and over again. It takes commitment to have a solid run game. And so I think that's maybe the biggest part of it. But also it's commitment from DeAndre Swift to go to find those slivers of holes in between the tackles and to take advantage of that as opposed to punching it outside. I think Danny mentioned that in previous shows here on Buffone 55. It takes a willingness to get hit. And that's why a lot of people were crying for Roschon Johnson, because he has no fear. And I don't want to say that DeAndre Swift was a little afraid to run between the tackles, but we had to question why he was always bouncing things outside in those first 2 or 3 games. And I also think that one of the things that Ryan Post bragged about during the offseason was the depth of the line. And it seems like the backup offensive linemen are playing better, particularly in the interior of the offensive line, at the guard positions, I should say. They're playing better than the starters, or at least as well. And Coleman Shelton has started to play better at that center position. From my viewpoint, I agree with everything Danny said, and I would add those 2 things as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's no coincidence that with the run game getting better, the passing game's opening up, and with the passing game getting better, the running game is opening up. So the 2 sides are playing against each other. And I want to stick in that same vein, Danny, because as you mentioned, the offensive line deserves credit for the emergence of the rushing attack. So let's talk about the line. For what it's worth, Pro Football Focus rewarded the best offensive line of the week to the Chicago Bears. The offensive line allowed just 1 quarterback hurry in their win over the Carolina Panthers. The caveat here, however, is that they were going up against a unit that has struggled to generate pressure all season, but they very much did their job in keeping Caleb Williams free from pressure. Danny, what have you seen from this Bears offensive line? And I understand you'd like to highlight one guy's play from Sunday's game.
Right. So early on, I believe, actually late in the first half, Tevin Jenkins hurt himself, hurt his foot or ankle. And there's a play here. We got it queued up here where we see Tevin just kind of, again, unfortunately for Tevin, this has been his story here in terms of, I think that's where initially got hurt there.
Sorry, I loaded up the wrong play. That was not the injury. So go ahead and talk about Tevin's injury. But that was
it's like it was hitting down the field, and all of a sudden it looked like he pulled up and he hurt his ankle. And then they inserted Bill Murray, not the actor, not the guy from Caddyshack, and not the guy that infamous Cup fan, but Bill Murray, the guard, who they picked up from the Patriots. He's an undrafted free agent. This guy was a defensive tackle, William and Mary. They put him in here, and I want to highlight some of his plays here. I think this is his first set here, where he took a look at his ability in terms of he's staying low to the ground. He's got good balance. He plays a natural knee bend. You see his active hands. You see the ability to go ahead and punch and then reset his hand. So, and then in terms of pass pro set here, I like the way he shuffles. I like the way he has pass pro awareness. He stops the defensive lineman. That's Ashawn Robinson coming at him. And I love the fact here, he goes in and he runs towards the football after that ball is dropped. So, again, this is a guy we haven't seen play. This is a guy that was been on the practice squad and eventually has been in the backup. This is what we've been calling for here on the show. Say it can't get any worse, guys. Bring in Ahmadaji, the third round rookie. Let's try these different kind of combinations. I thought it was going to happen maybe after the bye week, but I think obviously with Tevin Jenkins going down, I think that's gone ahead and kind of accelerate getting Murray in lineup. But the other thing that kind of made me excited was Ryan Poles is seeing what we're seeing, guys. Right? Nate Davis. Or at least Martin Poles and the staff, coaching staff, Nate Davis was relegated to third string, right? He was a healthy player. He was dressed, and he didn't come in at all in that football game, okay? And so I think that's something that's encouraging. If you're a fan, you've seen what he's done week in and week out, and they gave him the big contract, but they're not going to put him out there and get their quarterback killed. And that to me is very encouraging. But again, you get a guy like Bill Murray in there. First, again, small sample size, not a great defense he's going against, but that's encouraging, right? There's another clip we're going to go ahead and although if you're going to run the second clip here. Again, I want to highlight his pass pro awareness here, right? We talked about the Coleman Shelton being better. When your guards next to you are better, that improves everyone inside the interior line, including Coleman Shelton. So here we talk about he gets back again. He's got good balance, good set. Looks, but look at the pass pro. He's looking back and he's looking at Braxton Jones and he's seeing if he needs any help. That is pass pro awareness, because if he's getting his guy's getting close to Caleb, he's going to run over there and he's going to knock that kid out. So again, just a small sample size, but I like the athletic ability shown so far. I like the pass pro awareness, and I like the demeanor and the hustle and he showed display so far in his game. So these are some small things that can go a long way when you're forming a solid interior of the offensive line. So this next clip here. Again, I want to show you, his set here. Really balanced. He's an athletic. Remember, former defensive tackle at William and Mary, right? A former team captain. So he's got that football character you're looking for. He comes in here like that, athletic enough where he's able to go ahead and set. Ashawn Robinson is bringing power at him now, and he goes ahead and he sets. He resets his feet to go ahead and build that bridge, arches his back, and shows that he can take on power, take on a bull rush, and be able to maintain his block there as well. So he doesn't get bullied, he doesn't get pushed back and basically laid flat on his ass like we've seen some of the other guys do this season so far. So again, these are some of the things that have caught my eye with Bill Murray. And I'm be the first one to say, small sample size, not a great defense, but you know what? This is encouraging, right? This is encouraging. Let's try these young guys and see what they can do. This could be a diamond in rough that they found here, right? It couldn't be any worse. And that's what we've been saying week in and week out. Let's get these guys in, see what they can do, and let's go ahead and protect this kid and do whatever we can. Get the best five guys. You always see them say it, but get the best five guys out there. And I think as of, for Sunday afternoon, Bill Murray showed that he was one of the better five guys and needed to be on the football field. So these next two clips, these are my favorite clips of all five here. So again, I want to show you again here his pass pro awareness, right? Although if you get queued up, we go ahead and run that clip number 4 whenever you're ready.
Oh, that's the fight.
Yeah, so let's go to the fourth one.
Let me see here.
So again, encouraging is the way that this kid comes in. First NFL experience, to my knowledge, especially first NFL experience in the Bears uniform. In front of the home crowd at Soldier Field, and I like the way he came on and just showed that aggressiveness. So this is here just grabbing and turning and just again playing with some nastiness, playing with a kick-ass demeanor there. Those are the clip that I was looking at, but there was one clip that I was hoping to play where he basically takes on or blocks at some point all 4 of the down linemen for the Carolina Panthers, right? He starts off on this guy, a double team, hands him off to Coleman Shelton in the center, sees Braxton Jones getting bent backwards by Thomas Okun, goes and lays him out, decleats Thomas Okun, gets him a nice rip shot. It comes back to Ashawn Robinson and then moves on to number 93, LeBron Ray, and gives him a shot for good measure as well. So he literally touched 4 defensive linemen on the Carolina Panthers on this one play. So, this is some, again, the nastiness. There's one. There it goes. Right. That's one. Decleats Nkun, comes back, and now it gets LeBron right here as well. So if we can play that back real quick, this is awesome. Right. That's one. Yeah, what's up? You got him there. I'm like, this guy's getting, you see here, he's passing power errors. He sees Braxton Jones getting, needing help, goes in there and decleats that guy. Now comes in and looks for work and looks to finish off the other guys there as well. This is very impressive. Again, small sample size, but man, this is good. We haven't seen this, guys, on a Bears offensive lineman in quite a while here, right? Tevin Jenkins has some of that dog in him, but he's always unfortunately hurt and doesn't play out on a regular basis, consistent basis. But again, if this is someone that takes that sample size and just elevates and continues to get better, I'm telling you, that clip right there is going to make him a coaching staff favorite. They're going to show that clip over and over again and say, this is what you do. This is how you play. This is how you're aggressive. You're a guard. You're pass pro awareness. You'll see if your guy needs help. You go decleat his guy, and now you come back and you look for some more work. And that's what Bill Murray showed there as well. Now, the other clip I wanted to kind of add here as well is I like nasty. I like instigators. I like offensive that get under the skin of defensive linemen. Here was a touchdown run by Roschon Johnson. This was the big thing here was a fight, right? But look here. He's the one who instigates it. He comes out, pulls, gets into that D gap, leads Roschon Johnson into that, and then gets into J.C. Horn and kind of just shoves him up a little bit and gets Horn to go ahead and punch him in the face. Or actually, I'm sorry, he punches Kramer in the face, and then he shows Murray shows the whereabouts not to retaliate, not to get himself thrown out of the game. He lets Horn do that, but again. Some of that nastiness here comes in, doesn't need to, do anything else here, but just push it just for a good measure. Hey, you know what? Get off my feet. You're a little guy. I'm an offensive lineman. You're a little DB. Get the hell off my face. I like that. And again, that's a former defensive lineman who brings that demeanor, but some of that nastiness to the offensive line. I love seeing that. And I like, we see some of these clips. He's athletic enough to be able to pull and mirror and pass protection. So I just want to continue to see this guy play some more. And here he goes here. He's kind of mocking Carolina as well. So I love that in my offensive lineman. I like the guys that get underneath the skin of the defense lineman. John Runyon made a career of being that instigating type of offensive lineman. I remember growing up watching. He was the man with the hairiest arms I've ever seen a football player ever have. But his back hairs was kept sticking out of his pads, his arms. But he was a nasty SOB, and everybody went up against him. Hated him, but you know what? They respected him, and I think he had a long career. His son now is playing in the NFL as well. So, these are things we've been dying here. We've been screaming like this is, Nate Davis. He doesn't have it. He looks like he's just done. Athletically, he's got the size, he's got the frame. He can play, but it looks like mentally, just from a outside perspective, looks like the kid is done. Right? You cannot continue to put him out there week in and week out and get your quarterback killed and get him shellacked. And I think putting in a kid like Murray, now it was out of necessity because Jenkins got hurt. Now if Jenkins comes back and he's healthy, all the recruits have said multiple times he likes Tevin Jenkins at right guard. Do it. Flip him on right guard. If Murray continues to play well, keep him at left guard. And now, if you want to mix in Ahmadaj in there as well, let's go ahead and do it. Let's get these guys out there and see what we got here in terms of these backups.
Let me add, John, if I can, let me add 2 or 3 good quick thoughts here. We have to credit Tevin Jenkins, who actually played fairly well before the injury. It's clear that the Bears' interior offensive linemen, I don't want to say they had a day off, but the level of competition that they were facing, wasn't superior to their own talents. They did what they had to do, which was dominate the offensive line. Tevin did it, the right guard did it, and when Bill Murray came in, he did it too. So that's great news. The other thing is, I hear John when he's watching Murray knock that guy on the same play, and how you were laughing. I could tell you loved that. That's Buffone football. That's Bears football. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah, you get aggressive. And another thing, J.C. Horn needs to take a boxing lesson. That was the worst right cross I've ever saw in my entire life. Like, that was an arm punch. There was no hips in that. There was no shoulder rotation. That was not going to hurt Bill Murray. He was wearing a helmet, by the way. That was not going to hurt him in the least bit. But that's just a little tidbit that I picked up there. But, yeah, to both your points, that nastiness, that attitude setter, where it was like you don't want to come off as this line is finesse and it's, it's athletic and we're kind of soft. No, we're going to grind you into the ground. And maybe maybe Bill Murray is that attitude setter. And I wanted to get to a quick question here from Cliff Victoria, who said, Danny, who should be the 5 guys on the O-line? I know that's kind of a loaded question. I'm putting you on the spot there, but who do you think should be the 5 guys on the line right now?
Well, let's go where we have right now. Assuming Ryan Bates is not healthy to play. If Ryan Bates comes back and is healthy to play, I would give him an opportunity to take over at center from Coleman Shelton. But if we go the way it is right now, Braxton Jones, Bill Murray at guard, let's go with Coleman Shelton / Ryan Bates at center. And then I'd move Tevin Jenkins over to right guard. Him and Darnell Wright on the right side, obviously right at Darnell Wright would be a right tackle. I think that's a combination I would go with. And then we'll go from there. If Murray's play drops off, or if Coleman Shelton, or if Ryan Bates doesn't pick up, we'll just keep moving the guys in. Doug Kramer, I think, should get an opportunity to see what he could do there on the offensive line. I'm not saying Doug Kramer's going to be an all-world, but let's try these different combinations. We can't just let these guys sit there and let a defensive lineman just get free reins or free runs to our quarterback. We just can't do that. That's going to stunt his development. That's eventually going to get him hurt, and you don't want that, right? So let's do that. Start with that, and let's go from there. Come on, I want to see this third round kid play. Whether it's at left guard, right tackle, even left tackle. Braxton Jones, we saw a couple of those clips there, guys. He got bent backwards. He got walked back, and I've been a big Braxton Jones fan. I still have faith in him. He's got the ability to play well, but he's just not consistent enough, right? We're still seeing guys get into his chest. We're still seeing guys walking back into the quarterback's lap. This is year 3 or year 4 now for Braxton Jones. I expected that to be gone now. Be things where we would see here occasionally, but not as often as we're seeing him. So Thomas Nkoun, he's a small edge rusher from Western Michigan. He's an undrafted free agent. He's back there and he's got his hands in his chest and he's walking him back. That's the guy number 48 that Bill Murray decleated there. So these are things that from Braxton Jones I want to see him challenge. Is Armadaji the future left tackle? Are you going to start rotating him in there with Braxton Jones and kind of giving Braxton Jones a wake-up call? So for the answer to the question, the first 5, I'd go with Jones, Murray, Coleman / Ryan Bates, Tevin Jenkins, right guard, and then Darnell Wright, and then I'd go from there. If anybody's play slips, or I see stuff I was seeing in the first 3 weeks of the season on tape, I'm putting young guys in there, and I'm trying different combinations.
Let me jump in there. Because I vehemently disagree with Danny on this. I don't like just throwing guys in there to see what they can do. I think, I grew up with Bears offensive lines that the longer they played together, the better they played. And you lived through some, bad moments on offensive line. I think we have been quick this season to blame this offensive line. Coleman Shelton received so much crap the first 2-3 games of the season, and now potentially he could be developing into a average center, a little bit better than average center, and that chemistry between him and Caleb is vital. I don't want to just, all right, well, he's been playing just average, let's bring in this guy, give him a few snaps. In my book, that's a riskier proposition than trying to develop the 5 and trying to stick with it as long as possible. And I'll add one more point. Guys are evaluated during practice. If they are practicing well, they're going to see playing time. If they're not practicing well, they're not going to see playing time. I think Karan Amagaji has not seen playing time because he's probably not playing well, at least any noticeably better than Braxton or anybody else on the offensive line. So, and then the third point I'll add is, you have to study the opponents. What are their strengths? And do you have an offensive lineman who has not played, who perhaps that is his strength? This guy is really, the opposing defensive lineman is really good at one particular move, but we've learned that, Ryan Bates is a master at countering those moves. Then you would contemplate making a change on the offensive line. But to me, I think injuries have forced us to discover what we have here with Pryor and Bill Murray, and I think we should stick with that. What do you guys think?
And I agree in terms of continuity. That's what I want, Aldo, and I'm with you 100% in terms of continuity. I was just saying, if we're seeing Coleman Shelton being put back on his ass at snap, That's where I'm talking about. Like we saw the first 3 weeks. Obviously, this week he had a good game, solid game against the Rams. I don't say he had a good game against the Rams, but solid game against the Rams. If his play continues to get better and better, or like you said, be a solid center, yeah, no doubt, don't move. I'm talking about if we were seeing what we were seeing the first 3 weeks, where guys are on the floor looking at each other, on their butt, and a defensive lineman just getting a straight rush to the quarterback. That's where I would start challenging guys in their snaps.
Yeah, and I kind of feel the same way. I'm trying not to be too much of a, a microwave society guy where if it doesn't work in 10 seconds, then I'm throwing it away because I am all about the continuity. But I'm also a believer in not throwing good money after bad money. So if it's in the figurative sense, well, in the literal sense too, maybe. But at the same time, if like Danny said, just guys getting blown off the blown off the line. And it's like, okay, well, at least we got continuity. That's the same reason to say, hey, let's stick with this same coach for 10 years. We haven't done anything, but at least we got continuity. Like I don't like continuity for continuity's sake if it's not good continuity. So I think you got to see a bigger sample size and then say, okay, this is working, or they're starting to show improvement. We're seeing that cohesiveness. Let's stick with that. But if you're 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks into it, it's like, okay, it's not working, but at least it's the same guys out there. I don't necessarily like that either. So I guess I'm a big fence sitter here because I agree with both. I guess that's my job as the host of the show.
I have a little nugget that's going to get Aldo excited, but I'm going to wait till after the show if you have time. Sure. That I heard, but now it's getting some national steam, so we can touch back on the offensive line later on in the show.
Wow, way to just throw the audience under the bus there. We're going to talk about some, but we're not going to let you know about it.
No, I'll say before the show ends, but okay, this is going to get Aldo excited. I mean, he might just pop open a bottle of champagne, just chug it right on the air.
Oh wow, I'm excited. Well, let's talk about who the Bears are going to go up against. Danny, can you give us a quick rundown? We haven't done a whole lot of extensive research on the Jags, but what do you know about that defense and what the Bears might be up against this weekend?
Yeah, in terms of the Jaguars, Jacksonville Jaguars, one of the more disappointing teams. Got their first win last week. But this is a team. If you look up and down their offense and defensive roster, they have some talent there, right? Offensively, obviously, he starts with the quarterback Trevor Lawrence, and then they got two running backs in Travis Etienne and then Tank Bigsby. And then this kid from LSU, Brian Thomas Jr., has been a sensational deep threat. And he's a guy that's, he's got, 22 receptions, 397 yards. He's got 3 touchdowns already. 8 yard is as long as reception. So they've got some weapons on offense there to be careful. But in terms of defense, that's what you asked about, John. Their defense has been downright horrible. I mean, their leading tacklers are their secondary players. So that tells you in terms of what you can do with this defense, right? You just run at them. You run at them, you get to that second and third level defender, but they, in terms of up front, they got talented guys. They have Trayvon Walker, the number 1 overall pick a couple years ago. He's leading the team with 5 sacks. Eric Armstead comes over from the 49ers. He's a big, lean, powerful defensive tackle there. And obviously Josh Hines Allen, who used to be Josh Allen. He's their big guy. He's a guy that gets after the quarterback. So they can provide pressure. That defensive front can provide pressure on Caleb and the offense. So again, another week where we're going to just stress the run game, get that run game established, and give Caleb some time to be able to either roll away from pressure or drop back and get rid of the ball quickly. But this is a team that's record is disappointing. Their overall play so far has been disappointing, but they have some talent on both the offense and defensive side of the ball. So look out for those 3 guys on defense, especially up front.
Let's move over back to the offense real quick because the passing game was hitting on all cylinders on Sunday, with perhaps one exception. Keenan Allen for the season has 10 catches in 3 games for 81 yards. On Sunday, he did have 4 catches, albeit for 29 yards. Is the 33-year-old just a victim of injury and a rookie quarterback, or should we be a little bit more concerned about his age and health and what he can provide at this stage of his career? Danny.
Danny. Yeah, I mean, this was the question I had for him when the trade was made. This is a guy that really has not played an entire season. He's always been nicks and knacks and injuries here and there, but they did come off a very productive season last year. I think it might have been his best numbers in his career. But he's a veteran. He's a guy that goes out there. When he's out there, he's a presence. He's someone that defense does recognize, and they're leery of and where he's wary in terms of where he lines up. So, in terms of how he's getting his numbers going and all that stuff. Honestly, guys, I'm not really concerned about Keenan because I see him as a 1-year rental type where I think he's going to be gone after this year. I'm more concerned if you're talking about receiver. I'm more concerned about Roman Dunze. I want to see him kind of continue to get better. Him and that connection between him and Caleb to kind of continue to blossom. We saw him with DJ Moore and Caleb blossom this past week. Let's see more of that. Now let's see some of that with Rome. Now, obviously, Cole Kmet, and now you add the run game. And I think whatever Keenan Allen gives you is going to be extra gravy for me.
Although, if there's anyone that knows age, it's you. So go on with this one.
That's good. Yeah, H. I tell you, you can go downhill like fast, man. So I have been concerned about the depth of passes that have been in the scheme for Keenan. You know, he's only had, according to Pro Football Focus, 3 or 4 targets past the 10-yard marker, and the majority of his passes are near the line of scrimmage, inside of 5 yards, or these bubble screens and so forth. So to me, it's gonna be hard to get Keenan Allen and Caleb going in real game situations if you don't scheme for it, if you don't call it. And Sunday was disappointing for me because the Bears have had so much time of possession. They definitely could have tried to get him loose on some of these plays, but perhaps, you know, right now Caleb's comfort with DJ is so high that they wanted to get that going and exploit that because they probably have seen that work so well in practice. And then Rome Odunze is probably second on their priority list, not because Rome may be practicing better than Keenan, but because Rome has practiced more than Keenan. So it could just be a matter of this is just what's happened in the first 5 games, and we'll see more explosiveness from Keenan Allen. I mean, he came to the team with the title of being the best third down wide receiver in the NFL. And so I want to see that. I want to see us move the chains after Keenan Allen has caught a 5-yard pass and turned it into a 10, 12, 15-yard gain. And I want to see some explosives with Rome and with Keenan, and more explosives with DJ Moore for sure.
Yeah, and I don't need to see Keenan Allen streaking down the field. I don't think that's why he was brought into Chicago. I want to see when it's 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, he runs a crisp out route and catches it because he has such sure hands. This is a guy that, you know, used to be just a 100 reception machine. You could just jot it down that if he stayed healthy, that's what was going to happen at the end of the year. So, you know, listen, it's still a new team. He didn't practice much. He's been hurt. So maybe it's going to take a little bit of time to get him in there and get him going. So I'm still holding out hope that he can be the chain mover that they basically brought him in for. They didn't bring him to be the vertical guy. He's supposed to be the sure-handed guy that keeps the chains moving. So I'm still hopeful that can happen. But I do want to switch over back to the defense real quick because they are currently tied for 5th, at least in points allowed, behind only the Chargers, Broncos, Steelers, and Vikings. Danny, what's the secret sauce into making this defense play so well?
We touched on a bit this last week, John, but for me, it's the inside defensive alignment, the defense tackles. For Gervon Dexter is developing before our eyes. He leads the team with 4 sacks. He's a guy that's you know, got to get a little bit better on run defense, but he's not bad, right? And Andrew Billings has been a reincarnation in terms of what this guy done. He came in the league as just a run stuffing, you know, 2 down defensive lineman. He has gone, you know, he only has 1 sack to his credit. But I mean, he's always back there generating pressure and beating double teams, splitting double teams, and getting there and creating. I think those two kind of lead spirit charge at defensive front. And obviously now, you know, Daryl Taylor didn't get any sacks or credit with any sacks, but he was constantly in the face of Andy Dalton. He was constantly bringing pressure, coming on the edge. So combine those 3 with you know, Montez Sweat and what he does and the attention he draws, and then obviously bringing Austin Booker, the rookie, and DeMarcus Walker there as well. So I think that defensive line is what's that motor that's kind of generating and propelling this defense forward. And then I also touched on it last week again. Eberflus, his blitzes are the design of his blitzes in terms of how he disguises them and then where he brings them. He can bring defenders blitz in terms of, you know, we saw Brisker blitz last week. You know, we've seen Kyler Gordon blitz. We've seen the linebackers blitz. So he can bring it from any part of that defense, whether it's 2nd or 3rd level. And I like the way he just kind of picks and chooses time and kind of knows when to bring it, and then that kind of disrupts the flow of the offense if they're getting into a flow. So, and I mean, secondary, obviously, Jalen Johnson, and I think Tyreek Stevenson continues to kind of progress and develop and get better as well. So, I think to me, and we saw the veteran leadership of Kevin Byard this past week. He made a great interception. Plus, I think what he's brought, the stability he's brought there at safety. Obviously, he's an improvement over Eddie Jackson, not only in terms of being able to make plays on the football, but also I think as a leader in that room. I think everyone respects him and listens to him. And then Jaquan Brisker, I've been tough on this kid, but the last 2 weeks, he's had his best 2 games as a Chicago Bear, in my opinion. So, it sucks that he got that concussion and he's probably going to miss this game in London. But again, it's better, probably be safe than sorry there with him. But yeah, that secondary kind of continues to help, support that front. But to me, it all starts up front, and Gervon Dexter, Andrew Billings, Darrell Taylor, and Montez Sweat those are the guys that are making this team go and this defense go.
Yeah, I really like that response from Danny, because I agree. I have been harping for years that the pass rush nowadays in today's NFL starts in the middle, because quarterbacks are getting rid of the ball so quickly. I also want to kind of switch this question a little bit to 2 or 3 weeks ago, I did a video for Buffone 55 where I questioned Ryan Poles' draft strategy and the fact that he has not devoted higher draft picks to the offensive line. And so the response that Ryan Poles might have for me is, well, take a look at the defense. I'm invested, my board, and it wasn't on purpose. My board said that these defensive players were better than the offensive linemen that were available. And perhaps I made the right choice, although, I think that's a legit argument for all of us to consider when we are critical of the offensive line, when we are critical of Ryan Poles' select choices and the assets. Olin Cruz has almost famously, said this story about that they had a really good defense one year, and then in the offseason the Bears acquired Julius Peppers, and then during the season people would go up to Olin and say, hey, what is wrong with the offensive line? And he's saying, well, give me some help, guys. So you can't fix all 22 starting spots in a year or 2 years or even 3 years unless there's some luck involved where you really hit on a 5th round draft pick. And Braxton Jones really doesn't look like he's going to be that premier left tackle that we are hoping and praying for, just like Charles Leno wasn't, who was a 7th round draft pick. Yeah. So tough decisions have to be made. Poles has made them, and at least we're getting great answers back on those decisions from the defense.
And don't forget, Zach Pickens doesn't play either, and that's a guy I think is going to be a future starter as well there. So Zach Pickens was still dealing with, I believe, with a hip injury or a groin injury, I forgot, but he's a guy that I was really excited about when they got him in that 3rd round. So keep an eye on him when he comes back, and he just kind of get pulled into that rotation as well.
And I said before the season, I could not wait to see what Gervon Dexter was going to do. So far, he's been playing very well. I think that he took charge of being a professional over the offseason, invested in himself, and he's becoming a little bit of a wrecking machine on that line. And we've talked about this before. When you have an opportunistic defense that can turn the ball over, that's going to help a fledgling offense with a rookie quarterback to give you help with the field position, help keep the opposing offense off the field. So we've seen the benefits of that offense help out a young or the benefits of a great defense helping out that young offense to kind of help them find their way. Quick question here from Vizzo Joe here. Danny, do you see Poles making a trade or two before the deadline? For me, that depends on where they're standing at the deadline as far as how many wins and losses they have. But Danny, you may see it differently.
Well, this was the nugget I was going to save, and I teased earlier I was going to make Aldo. So the name to keep an eye on, and this is a long shot, but I've kind of heard this percolating, is the guard from Indianapolis, Aldo.
Oh, you're kidding me, Quentin Nelson, my hero.
If the Colts are they're 2-3 now, and Anthony Richardson is something that they don't know when he's going to come back. But if they continue to spiral out, the only unfortunate thing, and I'm not sure if I want to do this, I think it would take that Carolina pick. I think it would take that pick to get someone like Quentin Nelson.
Top of the second.
He's 27, I believe, going to be 28. I think he's 27 years old now, or maybe 28 years old, I think. But he's still, in the prime of his career. So that's a guy to keep an eye on. I've always said that keep an eye on these interior offensive linemen, teams that fall out of the hunt. Carolina. And Jacksonville's got Brendan Scherf, older veteran who costs less to acquire. But I think Poles, if he sees the right opportunity to secure it and solidify the interior of the offensive line, specifically the interior offensive line, I don't think he's going to go tackle or anything like that. I think that's something he'll attack in the offseason, whether it's the draft or free agency. But I think that if he has a chance to pounce on a player like a Quentin Nelson, I think that could be something that could entice him to go ahead and make that move. So keep an eye on that. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not reporting this. I'm just saying that it's starting to percolate now. Now national media people are starting to talk about it as well. So as a possibility in terms of Nelson being available.
That's your boy, Aldo.
That is my boy. I loved him at Notre Dame back in the old 100 proof days. I had long, heated debates with the co-hosts of that show, and they thought that drafting a guard in the top 10 was ridiculous. And I said that here's the thing. To bring in a guard who is already developed, you don't have to wait for him to develop. It's a plug and play. And they're kept saying, I can find you a good guard in the third or fourth round. No, those guys take a little while to develop. What I'm talking about is a plug and play guy who is probably, and they used to make fun of me for saying this, who's probably going to go to the Hall of Fame. That's what I saw in that player. His skills as a blocker and also his leadership. That is unbelievable. I'd love to see that happen if the money works out and he's checked out healthy, because he's got another 5, 6, 7 good years of football in him. Absolutely.
Yeah, would you trade that second rounder for a guy who's already proven and is on a trajectory of, being a stalwart on that line for the next 5 years?
Well, in my mind, I had that pick pegged for an offensive lineman. So why not cut out the risk of drafting a dud and make the trade if that's all they want, and give them Matt Pryor or somebody else in that trade. If that's all they want, yeah, I'm pulling the trigger. Absolutely.
I would try first with my own second round pick, the Bears second round pick, as opposed to Carolina second round pick. That's what I would try to trade first. But if on the flip side, if it does take, and again, this is all hypothetical. We're not reporting on this, or I'm just saying that there's percolations going around that if the Colts continue to kind of downwards, spiral here, they're a rebuilding franchise, and then he's a guy 28 years old, makes a lot of money. There's no need for a guard to be on a rebuilding team, right? So, he's the guy that if it takes that second round pick, I think long and hard about it. Like Aldo says, that's eventually going to be an offensive player. It's going to be either an offensive lineman, guard, tackle, another receiver, whoever it is. It's going to be an offensive player. So I would think long and hard about it, but I would try to get my second round pick instead of the Panthers second round pick.
Yeah, I'm probably pulling the trigger just because I like proven commodities over the scratch off ticket. You don't know if it's going to happen. Now, granted, it could be the 33rd overall pick. And so that could be you're basically giving a first rounder up for that. But if you're thinking this is a guy who's going to be able to protect Caleb for the next 5-6 years and do it at a very high level, then that's something to certainly consider. And not to mention the Justin Fields pick could translate into a 4th round pick, depending on if he stays with his trajectory of snaps played for the Steelers. I think that wouldn't they get a comp pick? I believe if Ian Cunningham gets a GM job. I think I saw that in the chat there. I don't know if it's
that's a third. That's two third round in consecutive years. So one this year, one next year. But again, it's a high pick. It's a valuable pick, right? And if you get and I think what they're going to do, and we talked about it a couple of shows ago, where Caleb is a 6'1.5" or a little over 6'1" quarterback. That middle, that the offensive line is more important to him than the high priced left or right tackle, right? We've seen Caleb, his pocket presence, where if he's got a pocket in front of him and he feels pressure on the outside, he feels comfortable stepping up in the pocket and being able to continue to look downfield. So I think forming that interior of the offensive line and solidifying that, I think that's going to be a big priority for Ryan Poles and company this offseason.
And this is the time to do that when you have your quarterback under his rookie contract, because Caleb will be making $50 million when his rookie contract is up. And so having money to spend on players like Quentin Nelson is going to be very, very difficult. Do it now and follow that San Francisco 49ers formula where they've added all-stars to McCaffrey and so on and so forth, because they are taking advantage of that Purdy contract.
Right. And just to clarify, J2K brought up the 3rd round pick about Ian Cunningham if he gets a GM job. Want to make sure I gave him credit there. Aldo, I know you were slacking off today and never got around to actually producing a video for us. I assume you were looking at senior homes or something. So what happened there?
Well, I know Bear there's solstice tomorrow, but I actually was calling an incontinence helpline and they had me on hold forever.
Yeah. Oh my God. We need to listen back in the worst way.
I don't blame you. Yeah, you know what? I was so busy the last couple of days that I didn't have time to do my usual video. And now that we moved to Tuesday, it's a little bit of a test on me. So what did I do? I called my friends over at AI, and I asked them, I typed in, hey, can you make me a video with a British narrator about the Bears and Jaguars this week? And they replied, and this is what they came up with.
The Jaguars take on the Bears in London this Sunday at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. The Jaguars have made a tradition of playing in NFL London games for the past 11 years. Last year, they notched 2 victories in London, including a win at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. This Sunday, they aim for another triumph on this iconic turf. Opened in 2019, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium isn't just any venue. It's the first stadium outside North America specifically designed for NFL games. From heavyweight boxing matches to Lady Gaga's Chromatica Ball, this stadium has seen it all. For the Chicago Bears, this will be their second game at Tottenham and their third in London overall. Their last visit was back in October 2019, where they faced a tough 24-21 loss to the Raiders.
Second down and 6. Williams play fake.
Will they turn the tide this
Now
time?
throws wide open. It's DJ Moore, the former Carolina Panther, is in for a Bears touchdown.
Buckle up and get ready for an unforgettable NFL experience in London. It's a match you won't want to miss.
So, Aldo,
I was watching you throughout that video, and you were like, I can't believe he's doing this on my show.
so just to clarify, that entire thing was done by AI?
Well, I did the editing, but they wrote the script and provided the voice.
Just another piece of evidence that we are all going to be outsourced no matter what we do by AI very shortly.
I know I will be.
Machines are taking over. So while we still have jobs, let's talk about that international game. Aldo, I'm going to start with you. Do you see any benefit? By the way, great job machine, whoever the hell did that.
AI.
What do you think? Are there any benefits to playing that international game over in London outside of like the cultural thing and bringing it to the fans or anything? Let's just talk from a football sense. What do you think the benefits are, if there are?
Yeah, I think the benefits are that sometimes when you go on the road for a long trip, the Bears left on Monday, it can really help a team bond together. And this team has been pretty tight together, particularly the defense. But now if the offense, and you got, this new offensive line, and you got Bill Murray and these guys, if they could start gelling together, that whole offensive line, by spending time, having a couple of pints together, talking with fans and playing in this new environment, and then taking that long flight to and from, it could potentially really help the team from a camaraderie and a team chemistry standpoint. Outside of that, it's, I hear a lot of bad things about it. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, I kind of made my thoughts apparent on the B55 segment. I don't mind because it's not really a primetime game as far as I'm concerned, and they have that bye afterwards. I think if they had a game right that next week, there's like a 5-hour difference there. There could be jet lag. I think that they're already over there, so they're getting accustomed to the time difference. I don't mind it. Honestly, I don't. I'm sure that it might play with people's routines a little bit. I'm sure there are disadvantages to it. But I mean, from a fan standpoint, I don't mind it. Danny, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Aldo brings some great points in terms of, the team bonding element of it, going out to another country and being able to kind of, do some things as a team, whether it's sightseeing or just, trying some of the, some of the food and all that stuff. So, I mean, some of these guys are 21, 22 years old. Some have not been to London. So this could be their only experience to get out there and experience something different. So I think that kind of gives them that ability. In terms of the game itself, the players are such routine-based players. And I think, kind of throwing that routine off is something that I think could potentially hurt them. So, with the Bears being on a winning streak at home, this is technically a game for the Bears. I hate seeing them, lose that and to go and play in London. I wish they were just going to kind of continue that here at home. But, it is a cool experience for the players, something that they could, once in a lifetime for some guys. So I hope they go out there and enjoy it. But I think I agree that the Eberflus taking them out there Monday, let them get used to the travel, any sort of jet lag or anything like that, time, and it's time difference and all that, everything like that, and just kind of get into their zone. And like I said, they are such routine-based, creatures of habit, football players. So, let them get in that routine and then hopefully they come out with a victory. But yeah, I mean, I hate losing a home game, but I think overall, I think it'd be a positive experience.
Yeah, I think if you win this game, that's something to build on too, because you traveled over there, like Aldo talked about, the camaraderie, and then if you come back with a victory, that's even better. You're back in the States, you're riding high after you're getting on a plane for, I think you said 8 hours in the chat there, the 8-hour flight. That 8-hour flight coming back, if you win, that 8-hour flight is going to be much more enjoyable, and you can kind of ride that momentum. But if you lose, maybe that's a long flight to be taken home if you lose the Jaguars. But a lot of I think that a lot of good points brought up about that. Now let's talk about some of the disadvantages here, which we already kind of brought up. It's the Jags are used to playing over there, at least if you've been on the Jaguars for a while. The time difference over there, getting acclimated, I think, was probably an issue that they faced last time. Although did they go later in the week last time that they played in London?
Yeah, back in 2019, Matt Nagy had the team fly out. I think it was late on Thursday, so they arrived Friday morning, and it was clear by the play of the team that the Raiders, who John Gruden sent out on Monday or Tuesday, they were fresher, they were playing harder, they were playing smarter, and it was probably the number one reason the Bears lost that game, because Gruden had the foresight to get them acclimated to time travel, and as Matt Eberflus this year, the reason they left on Monday was to get acclimated to the time.
Time travel. You never thought we'd be playing a part of this. Here we are.
How about that?
If I don't, that was Kyle Long's last game as a Chicago Bear, I believe, right?
Was it? I don't remember.
He got injured, and I think he didn't play another game for the Bears, I believe.
Yeah,
it was against the Raiders.
Well, I wanted to bring this up, Danny, because the Bears, obviously, they were on Hard Knocks, and now they're being spotlighted in the London game. Is this, you think this is, I think everything by the NFL is pretty much orchestrated as far as the scheduling and who they're putting in there. Is this being overly harsh to the Bears, putting them in this much spotlight, or is this just something that is part of being a professional team? And just like, if you're on Hard Knocks, you're going to be in a primetime game. You might get sent out to London. You have a rookie quarterback who is called generational. We're going to put him on TV. It all just comes with that territory.
That's the thing. That comes with the territory, right? You're one of the founding franchises of the NFL. You've been a team that hasn't really, had this type of buzz around it. To be honest with you, and I can't remember last time they had this much buzz around them. So, and with Caleb Williams coming in and his development and all that stuff, I think they wanted to showcase as much as possible because Caleb and his potential and everything like that. So the young players on offense in terms of Rome Odunze and some of the other guys that they've acquired, and then the guys on defense, I think they wanted to put them in a position where they were kind of shine and see that spotlight. And I think if Caleb develops into what we all expect and think is going to develop, Bears are going to be a lot more primetime games. So if you're a Bears fan, you'll go ahead and probably check out. Get used to seeing the Bears on primetime and a lot more of these late evening starts.
Hey, if you're going to be a great team, do great things. And while we might look at certain aspects of it and say, well, that's going to give an advantage to this team or that team or this division opponent, what have you, I don't care. I want to believe that this team can withstand anything that is thrown at them. And I hope that Matt Eberflus is preaching that message to the team. We can do this. We will do this, and we will do it in a style and a fashion that will be memorable for Chicago Bears fans and throughout the NFL. Absolutely.
Yeah, and Danny, I want to talk real quick about the Jags because they got their first win this past Sunday. They gave Trevor Lawrence a pretty hefty extension before the beginning of the year. What if anything, have you seen from Trevor Lawrence, and what do you think that he may be doing well or may not be doing as well, and maybe the Bears can capitalize on?
Yeah, he's still a lot up and down in terms of his play. I mean, this is the guy that also that generational talent, label when he came out of college, and just really hasn't lived up to hype. Now he got the contract. I think Jacksonville pretty much knew that they were going to sink or swim with Trevor Lawrence. That they had no choice but to give him the contract. But I mean, you'll see him make some great throws. I mentioned earlier in the little preview, Brian Thomas Jr., the rookie receiver, is the big play threat. They signed Gabe Davis, Evan Ingram. The tight end is also a big play threat. But I'm not sure if he's healthy to play this week or not. So they have talent, right? And obviously Lawrence has playoff experience, has won a playoff game. So this is a team that could come out and beat you. Now I do like the fact that they won their game last week, because you don't want them coming here at be 0-4 and now or 0-5 and looking for their first victory, because that's going to be a hungry team. So hopefully they have a little bit of a letdown because they got their first victory and now they come in here and Bears get them at the right time. But again, their defense is one of the defense that I would just continue to that run game and just kind of pound that rock down their throat and then build the passing game off of that.
Danny, real quick question in the chat here from PZ. Who's going to start for Brisker? Hicks, Owens? Who do you anticipate, or going to be a rotation?
I believe it's going to be Owens. I think Owens is going to start because when Brisker didn't play in the preseason, Owens got the start there. So I think that's who he's a veteran. I think he's going to start, and we'll see a lot of Elijah Hicks as well. But I think if I had to guess, I think it's Owens.
Yeah, and I'd like to add that I know in today's NFL, defensive coordinators like to hide who is the center field safety, but Byard is just so good at playing center field. So I hope that whoever is going to replace Brisker, and I think probably Owens would be the better choice, I agree with Danny, that it will allow Byard to play that center field as he did here on this interception. You see Brisker moving up towards the line of scrimmage, and then Byard just does such a wonderful job turning around here. I'm pretending I'm Danny Shim here now, analyzing tape, but he just does such a nice job of turning around there and then high pointing the ball and coming up with a really beautiful interception.
And I think Owens is a more physical kind of guy you can bring down in the box and be an extra linebacker, if you will, extra presence there around the line of scrimmage as Brisker is. And I think Elijah Hicks is more of that, more of a nurse side safety. I think he'd be more of like a free safety kind of guy. So that's why I think Owens would be the guy that they kind of insert in that lineup. And plus, when Brisker left for a couple of games, a couple of plays this past week, Owens was the guy in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
All right, Aldo, get it queued up because it's time to play the game I hold as another tribute to my Uncle Doug, and I call it Buy, Sell, or...
This is moronic.
Oh, he's firing on all cylinders tonight. He must have had his coffee or whatever it is. He had an extra Werther's Original in his pocket. This week, the question is outside of the Bears organization because there was a major story in the NFL that just fired their head coach, Robert Salah, this morning. And according to NFL insider Jordan Schultz of the Schultz Report, he was escorted out of the building by team security. There was no meeting with players to inform them or anything like that. We'll start with Danny. Danny, do you buy, sell, or think
that
this is moronic?
Salah, do you buy the firing of Salah and doing that was escorted out of the building?
Although get that thing queued up because I think this is
moronic.
Robert Salah was probably going to lose his job end the season anyway. If 5 games in, the team hasn't looked great. They're 2-3. They're only a game back of Buffalo, who's 3-2. I mean, they play Buffalo Monday night. at home. So you win that game, you're right there with Buffalo. I mean, it's not like this team was 0-5 and just everyone had quit on Salah or anything like that. And the fact that he didn't even consult with Joe Douglas, the GM, or anybody else on the staff, just came in and just said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and fire him. It just shows that why the Jets are one of the more poorly run organizations throughout the NFL. And I think, they sold their soul to the devil. They gave everything up for Aaron Rodgers. He's come in there and he's whatever he's touched has turned to crap. Now, obviously he got hurt last year. That's not his fault. But now, he go and gets his guys, Randall Cobb, and gets Alan Lazard. And then it goes and gets his offensive coordinator and Hackett, who doesn't know what the hell he's freaking doing. And now they're the favorite to go get Devontae Adams as well. So I mean, they're going to make these guys the Green Bay of the East, and he's going to up and probably not even make the playoffs or get eliminated in the first round. And he's going to end up quitting, and they're going to clean house everything. So it was just not the way to handle an NFL organization. The guy, they had no idea what was happening. I'm not saying he's a great coach, but you have to give some guys some respect, right? This is gonna, I think, in my opinion, this is gonna hurt the Jets moving forward. If you're a young coach, if you're a Ben Johnson or a Bobby Slowick from Houston, when he's up and coming, why would you want to go coach these guys, right? You have an age 40-year-old prima donna quarterback who still thinks he's a great player in his prime, and you have an offensive coordinator who basically listens to whatever the quarterback does, and you have an owner who's just, in terms of one of the worst people out there to do this to Robert Saleh and then to escort him out like he stole something and he was doing something illegal. It's just low class, and I think this is something that's going to come back and haunt the Jets. And this is one of the reasons why they've been one of the more poorly run organizations throughout the NFL.
Yeah, Vizlo Joe says here, where'd it go? Oh, here it is. Says Salah took play calling away from Nathaniel, and 5 minutes later, Woody fired him. And there was a report that Salah was ready to fire Nathaniel Hackett because let's face it, it's the offense that is the problem with the Jets. The Jets have a top 5 statistically in terms of yards allowed, a top 5 defense in the NFL. They're on par with the Chicago Bears. They're tied, I think, with the Bears as a top 5 defense. So Salah's specialty is defense, and so how can you blame him for that? And then you bring in a Nathaniel Hackett because Aaron Rodgers wants him. Well, Aaron Rodgers, didn't you see what Hackett did in Denver? I mean, he was laughed out. Yes, he did see it because he was very critical of Sean Payton for the criticisms that Payton had of Hackett. But the reality is that Hackett is running a 20th century offense with no movement, no adjustments. It's just Aaron Rodgers going back there and doing whatever he wants. Aaron doesn't want to learn a new offense. And so, as Danny said, this is unsettling. Woody Johnson just made a huge mistake. If I'm a New York Jets fan, I will say to them, consider coming to the Chicago Bears. There's room on the bandwagon.
Yeah, well, all of this to say, when has it ever worked to fire a coach through the season and they ended up doing something well that year? And actually, I think there was a graphic, I forget, on one of the major networks today where it's been 26 or 27 coaches have been fired mid-season, and only one of them ever made the playoffs, and it was the year that John Gruden got fired, not because of the performance of the team, but because of his conduct. And then the Raiders ended up making the playoffs. So like Danny said, they're one game out of first place. And if they beat the Bills, they're in first place. So this goes back to what I was saying on B55. You can be a great defensive coach, but you're still somehow tied to your offensive production, and your fate can be in the hands of your offensive coordinator. And even though the offense was sputtering, the defense was playing well, but Salah's got to be the fall guy for that. He gets fired, and now you have Aaron Rodgers and Nathaniel Hackett. And as we were talking about earlier, there could be some much better jobs available than the Jets next year. I mean, what if the Bills job becomes open, or some of these other teams where there are? What if the Jags job becomes open? You have Trevor Lawrence, or you have Josh Allen. You're going to be somebody's third or fourth and fifth potential pick moving in next year, not only because of the situation with the roster, but because you say, wow, look what they did to Robert Saleh last year. I'm not sure if that's really the job I want to take. Not to mention I have a 41-year-old quarterback who's demanding control over absolutely everything, and he's not even playing that well. So it's kind of a dumpster fire of a situation in New York, and I think Foster said it in the chat. Just like there's always someone that has it worse than you. So I think that as Bears fans, we look at it and be like, well, at least that's not us. And so
they sold us. They're sold to the devil. I mean, Aaron Rodgers was running that organization, and although that great nugget there in terms of if Hackett was going to get fired, there's no way Aaron Rodgers is going to want Hackett to be fired. So it was all right. If you're going to fire him, then you're gone. And I think that makes sense now in terms of if that was going on in the background there.
The other thing that Danny mentioned is that Salah was escorted out with security. In my experience in working in corporate America, and this has unfortunately happened 2 or 3 times when there's been mass firings and security was brought in to escort employees out, horrible times. And so I can't imagine the humiliation that Salah went through. But the corporations say that they do that because they don't want the person to go back to their office and take a computer, a playbook in this case, or do something. And maybe he was going to go back to punch Aaron Rodgers in the face, and they did it for safety and precaution purposes. I know that's outlandish to think, but I wouldn't mind punching Aaron Rodgers in the face.
I agree with you all in terms of the security thing, but also, I mean, in the NFL, the tradition is if you fire a head coach, he can talk to his players one last time. He wasn't even allowed to address his players, and that to me is like there's something going on there, whether he was going to tell the players what was happening, and then the players were going to have a mutiny, and then that's why Woody Johnson didn't want that. But yeah, you're right in terms of the corporate world. But I think in football world, you give the head coach the opportunity to give his players a goodbye, a farewell speech or message or whatnot, and he wasn't given an opportunity at all. He didn't talk to anybody. There's immediately escort him out of the building.
Yeah, and if you weren't gonna afford him that opportunity to talk to his players anyway, just fire him over the phone then. don't let him come to the facility. So kind of a mess there in New York. I think we all thought this was moronic, I believe. So go ahead. You
want me to do it one more time?
Yeah, moronic.
So before we sign off, one of the features we have at the close of our show is for our draft addicts here. They look forward to Shim and Spotlight, where Danny evaluates a player that could potentially be someone of interest to Bears fans in the 2025 draft. Danny, who you got this week?
Well, this week for Shim and Spotlight, I'm going to take you out to the Pacific Northwest to the University of Oregon. We're talking about Jordan Burch, defensive lineman for the University of Oregon, 6'5", 265 pounds, currently leading the Big Ten with 5 sacks. This is a consensus 5-star high school recruit that came out. First 3 years actually went to South Carolina. You see here there in playing in South Carolina in the first 3 years, then went to transfer to Oregon. Last 2 years, he's been a full-time starter there with Oregon. His positives is size, length. He's got a thick frame. He's an athletic edge defender who can play on his feet from a 2-point stance or put his hand in the ground and be a base defensive end. You can slide inside, play some 3 technique if need be. He's a straight line power rusher, more of a speed to power type of rusher. Will extend his arms, press, and get the offensive tackle on his heels and walk him into the backfield. That's an opportunity. You see sometimes where he can just dip his pads, and get below the blocker's pad level and squeeze himself into the backfield. Some pressure there as well. Solid run defender, displaying take-on strength at the line of scrimmage. Will press the blocker with those long arms and play peek and seek to locate the ball carrier, shed, and make a tackle. Plays hard. This guy, you'll see him garner hustle sacks throughout his collegiate tape. Some of the negatives that so far have kind of appear on this tape is he's not a twitchy edge guy, right? He's not a guy that has a natural corner bend. Some concerns about how will he hold up against a more athletic, bigger, faster left tackles at the next level. His pass rush arsenal hasn't developed yet. Still needs to work on some, in terms of his hand usage. He needs to develop a counter move when his initial, thwart upfield has been stopped. And that tweener label, right? So some teams are saying, is he a outside linebacker? Is he an edge guy? Is he an inside defensive tackle? For me, I had weight on this kid. I kick him inside the 3 technique. He's a guy that I think could excel inside as a decent tackle at the next level. So, like I said, he's got off to a great start. 5 sacks, leads the Big Ten so far. So this is the guy that brings you position versatility, could play some edge, could play some inside, similar to a guy like DeMarcus Walker, right? You see the Bears utilize him in multiple ways on the front. Eberflus likes these guys with length, with size, with athletic ability, and gives you that position versatility. So I think this is a guy that the Bears could keep an eye on. Day 3 probably is where I'm looking at right now. But so this week's Shim Spotlight player has been Oregon lineman Jordan Burch.
Right on. All right, Aldo, time for some predictions. Look into your crystal ball and tell us what you see happening in London. I think the Bears are only favored by 1.5 points going into this game. So it's a pretty close spread.
Yeah. I this is not based on any logic or anything like that. I just have a gut feel that the Bears are going to continue that dominating type performance they had against the Panthers, and they're going to transfer that to London against the Jaguars. So I expect them to win by at least 10 points and maybe as many as 14 points. I expect the defense to really make it a tough day for Trevor Lawrence. I know I've seen the name Brian Thomas in the chat room scroll a number of times. His speed, somebody said that's going to force the Bears to play a lot more cover 2 to make sure that Thomas doesn't burn the Bears deep. And that makes a lot of sense. But I also think that this Bears team is at a point now where they're going to just pressure the crap out of Trevor Lawrence. And the Jaguars defense is nothing to praise. I think Caleb is going to have a really good day against them. So I'm going to say 24-10 Bears.
Danny, do they cover? They win and they cover, although it's only 1.5. So if they win, it's pretty. They should cover.
Yeah, I think I got the Bears winning as well. Although mentioned, this is a team that the Jaguars that are not great shakes right now. To me, defensive line is something that's got talent, but you can get into that second, third level, that defense with the run game. I think you can gush this team, rushing the ball down their throats. I like to see the continued, leaning on that rushing game and sticking to the run and building out the passing game off of that. And I want to see more rollouts, getting away from Josh Allen from his side. Trayvon Walker on the other side leads the team in 5 sacks. So again, protecting Caleb, I think, is going to be essential. But that's why establishing the run is going to be key here. And I think the Bears can go ahead and score on this team, obviously. But I think the Jaguars have weapons on offense. I think Etienne and Bigsby are 2 running backs, and the 2 big tackles inside are going to have to come up and play some good run defense. The linebackers are going to have to have secure tackling. So I think it's going to be a closer game than Aldo has it. I think it's going to be more of a 27-23 Bears victory, in my opinion.
Yeah, I have them covering. I have it 23-20. I think that for some reason this, although they are playing well, there could be some quirky things. Just call it a London thing, but I think that they are going to be able to pull it out with a 23-20 victory. I think that would mean 3 in a row, which is a huge thing for this Bears team. So I'll take it any way we get.
4 in a row falls squarely on your shoulders.
Oh yeah, because they'll be in Washington, and I will be on that game. I will be at that game, so I will be held personally responsible for the result of that game. Which I'm glad that I can bear that cross for everyone. But at any rate, that'll wrap up this edition of Buffone 55. The next Bear-related show on the network is tomorrow, Wednesday. Bear Their Souls. Aldo, you co-host that show. Tell us what to expect.
Oh my goodness. I have so many things that I'm about to plan for the show. So I want to tell you that, generally what you're guaranteed to get are some really bad jokes and some really weird stories from Dan Aguirre. And for the last half hour of the show, some movie reviews. So watch that at 8 p.m. Central. Bear Their Souls, Dan Aguirre and Johnny the Tooch Santucci.
Well, that sounds like a heck of a show, and one with plenty of opinions. But
the over on shots all it does on that show is 3. That's
a good, yeah.
That's a good line. That's a good solid line there, Danny. Always draft season. What college football game are you focused on this weekend?
Yeah, big game in the Big Ten, right? We're just talking about Oregon and Jordan Burch, and Ohio State number 2 visits Oregon. The players I'm eyeing on here is going to be Ohio State. Obviously, he's got some big guys up front, both on the offensive and defensive line. Offensively, Josh Simmons, a left tackle. Josh Fryer, the right tackle, and Donovan Jackson, the left guard, are guys I'm keeping an eye on from Ohio State. Defensively for Ohio State, obviously Tyleik Williams, their big defense tackle in the middle, number 91. He's 6'3", 330. He's already got, in only 3 games, he's got 3 tackles for loss and a sack and a half. So he's a high a guy that's a high on a lot of teams' draft boards. JT Tuamolo, the defensive end from Ohio State as well, the senior, 6'4", 277, 4 tackles for loss, 3, more of that physical type of defensive end guys. And for Oregon, we just talked about Jordan Burch. He was the guy I highlighted in Shim and Spotlight. But keep an eye on his teammate, Derek Harmon, the defensive tackle, number 55. He transferred from Michigan State, and he's already got 5 tackles for loss and 3 sacks. So Harmon and Burch are going to be guys I'm looking at here at Oregon in terms of their defensive line. So tons of talent between these two teams. Obviously, number 2 in Ohio State versus number 3 Oregon should be a good matchup to watch this weekend.
A lot of good football games on. And Aldo, get that graphic up one more time. One final reminder, if there's anything you can do to help with the relief efforts for going on for the victims of the hurricanes hitting the United States, consider contacting the American Red Cross. The website for volunteers is on the screen, as well as the 800 number for donations. Alyssa Barbieri, we hope you're doing well, as in addition to everybody down there who is bracing for impact of that hurricane. So hopefully Alyssa will be back with us sooner rather than later. But that'll do it for us. For Danny Shim and Aldo Gandia, I'm John Buffone. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Actually, no, we're on a bye next week, aren't we, Aldo?
Yes.
We're on a bye. We're on a bye next week. So the next episode we have, will that be the Halloween episode, or we have one more before that?
No, I think that will be the Halloween. Let me open up my calendar.
I think we're on a bye on the 22nd, guys.
Yes, you're right.
So we do have a show next week.
We do have a show next week, yes.
We have a show next week, guys.
Well, I'm glad you told me that,
tune in.
I was taking off.
Listening, please tune in. We don't have a bye next week.
Don't listen to me.
2 weeks.
I am only the host. Don't listen to me. We have a show next week. We will be back. For Danny and Aldo.
It'll be better next week when Alyssa's here.
I'm willing. We'll see you next time, everybody. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.